Good afternoon, Form 2s. So this week we're going to have a little look at fruit, vegetables, soups and sauces. So a little bit of a change from the dairy. So in this first little recording, I'm going to have a little look at slides 1 to 21. And they're the ones for this week, week 4. And then in the second recording, I'll have a look at the remaining slides. So we'll first of all look at fruit. Then we're going to look at part of vegetables, and then in the next recording I'll finish vegetables, and then we'll look at soups and sauces. So first of all, let's have a quick look at fruit. So I'm going to jump down here. You can read through the learning intentions yourselves there, okay, what we want to find out. So the definition of fruit and the classification and the nutritive value and dietetic value, etc. So I'm going to jump down here straight to the classification of fruit. So when you're looking at fruit and you're classifying fruit, classification simply means what groups there are. So how many different groups of fruits are there? So we have citrus fruits, first of all. So they're the ones with the segments. And they tend to be including the bitter ones. So you have your grapefruit, you have your lemons, your limes, and then you have your oranges and tangerines. So they all have a segment in them. You can squeeze them, the juice will come out. Then you have your berries, so they're fairly straightforward. Blackberries, black currants, gooseberries, raspberries, red currants, strawberries. Okay, so the berries. Then the stones, apricots, cherries, damsons, nectarines, peaches, plums. So they all have a hard stone inside. The hard fruits, you have apples and pears mainly. Dried, then apricots, currants, dates, prunes, raisins and sultanas. So don't forget your prunes are your dried plums, your raisins, sultanas are your dried grapes. And then you have other fruits that don't really fit into any category. So these can include your exotic fruits. You have your bananas, melons, pineapples and rhubarb. Okay, so moving on to the composition. So the composition is your percentages. So again, you look at the very top there and you go through every single category. Protein, fat, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals and water. And if fruit doesn't contain any of those, you need to say that. It's just as important to say that as not. So very minimal protein, 0.5%. So virtually no protein, okay? Just a trace. And the word trace means a very small amount. 0.5%, and of course it's going to be low biological value. Fat is 0%, so there is no fat, so great for the slimmers or weight-reducing diets. 5 to 10%, so there's a good range there of carbohydrate. You have the fibre in the skin, and some fruits you would have more starch, some you'd have a little bit of sugar, okay. Vitamins A and C, okay, so C particularly in your citrus, right, and some of your berries, and then vitamin A as well for your eyes, your skin, your growth. Minerals, calcium and iron, and then a lot of water. Right, so let's move on down now, nice and quickly, to the nutritive value. So I have omitted here the protein and the fat because there is virtually none. But if you were discussing the nutritional value or the nutritional significance, which you are asked about on your booklet, you're asked about the nutritional significance. So if I'm looking at it here, it says discuss the nutritional significance of fruit and vegetables. So you would look at fruit and vegetables, but you would certainly say that there is very little protein, and you would talk about the protein. It would be LBV in fruit, and then you would go on to the fat, that there's no fat in fruit. Okay, and then on to your vegetables then. So the nutritive value, carbohydrates, sugar is in all fruit in the form of sucrose, glucose and fructose. So they're important words, sucrose, glucose and fructose. Starch is found in underripe fruit, and then as the fruit becomes more ripe, the starch will convert to a sugar. So you know if you eat an underripe banana, it's quite starchy, it's quite difficult to digest, and it's not very sweet. As your banana gets sweeter, the starch converts to sugar, and the fruit becomes much more sweet. And then if your banana is overripe and there's little bits of brown in it, it's actually at its sweetest stage. Pectin is a carbohydrate as well, and it's found in the cell wall, and that's useful in terms of making jam, because pectin is what helps your jam to set. And when you cook your fruit very slowly and you stew it, then your pectin is released. Cellulose or fiber is found in the cell wall. Okay, so that's very important. All of that information is very important. And those words like sucrose, glucose, fructose, starch, pectin, cellulose, they're all very important words that you would need to give in an answer. Vitamins then, all fruit has vitamin C. Blackcurrants are a very high source of vitamin C, and strawberries. And then you have your citrus fruits as well. And then the yellow, orange and red fruits have vitamin A in them, and that's actually what gives them their colour. Small amounts of iron and calcium then is your minerals. Bananas have potassium and water. Right, so we know what's missing. Okay, so we don't need to elaborate on that. It's the protein and the fat. So the dietetic value. So whose diet and why? So this is your next question on your little booklet then, your little answer booklet, okay? You're asked about the dietetic value, and we have given you some pointers here. Discuss the dietetic value of fruit and vegetables. So you'd need to give a point on cost, age, versatility, availability, and nutrition. Okay, so I have summed that up in 3 points there. Whose diet they are needed for and why. How versatile are fruit, and are they economical? So they add a great variety to the diet in terms of colour and flavour and texture. So that's versatility. That's the middle point. They're useful in low-calorie diets and low cholesterol diets and high fibre diets because they're high in water and fibre and low in fat. So that's whose diet are they recommended for. Antioxidants, vitamin C and beta-carotene help prevent heart disease. So that's whose diet as well. Can be eaten raw or cooked in a wide variety of dishes, sweet and savoury. That's versatility again. And then they're a healthy snack and they're cheap. There's no preparation. That's economical. Okay, so all of those points are very important. Now, looking at the uses. So if we're to look at the uses include a category and then an example. So, raw as a snack, example, an apple for your lunch. In drinks, example, a smoothie, a milkshake, a fruit juice like orange juice, freshly squeezed. Breakfast, example, grilled grapefruit, mixed berries on your porridge, a banana on your pancake, or a smoothie. Packed lunches. Starters, example, melon. Sauces, and you'll see this at the end of the chapter, applesauce, which is served with pork. Cranberry sauce is served with turkey. Salads and dressings, so you can have a nice a dressing, you can have like a raspberry coulis. Hot desserts, cold desserts. Okay, so a hot dessert could be something like pineapple upside down cake. A cold dessert could be banoffee that has your banana in it. Baking, example, a baked apple, apple tart, rhubarb crumble, and preserves, which are like jams, strawberry and apple jam. Okay, so know an example for each of those. Now, buying fruit. So buy it in season, it's at its cheapest and it's the best quality. Buy in usable amounts. So don't go buying a whole go of it today, particularly berries. They go off so quickly. And then by the time you get around to eating the last punnet, then they're gone mouldy. Okay, make sure they're a good quality and they're ripe. Avoid pre-packed because they tend to sweat. Firm, good colour, no discoloration, and buy medium-sized for the best flavour. And where should we store them? Cool, dark, ventilated place. Use quickly after purchasing. Remove packaging and store loosely, so take it out of the sweaty container that it's in, and remove anything that's spoiled or damaged because it will cause the others to go off. Now, preparing, wash in cold water to remove chemicals or soil. Prepare as close to cooking and serving as possible to avoid loss of vitamin C, because as soon as you cut into vegetables and fruit. This does apply to vegetables as well. If you use a blunt knife, it will expose an enzyme that will destroy your vitamin C. So vitamin C, you need to be very careful not to lose it. And if you leave fruit or vegetables soaking in water, vitamin C can be lost as well. So just prepare as close to cooking as possible. And don't overcook your fruit or veg. Avoid peeling as skin has the fibre. So if you can eat the skin, eat it. Eat raw if possible and avoid steeping in water because again you'll lose your vitamin B and C. Now the effects of cooking. So just imagine and think about when I cook fruits, and a lot of these points will apply to vegetables as well. When I cook them, what are the differences? What are the changes that I make? Well, they become softer and easier to digest. Vitamin C is destroyed because it's water soluble. Minerals and vitamins dissolve in the cooking liquid, so try and use that for soups and sauce and gravies. Texture softens because the fibre or the cellulose softens. Microorganisms or bacteria are killed and enzymes are destroyed. They absorb water and they swell. And overcooking causes loss of colour, flavour and texture. Okay, so that's an interesting point there in terms of enzymes are destroyed, because before you freeze vegetables, you would blanch them first. So that's dipping them into boiling water, not cooking them, just dipping them, and then dipping them into ice cold water to stop them from cooking. And that's to kill the enzymes, because enzymes still cause fruits and veg to deteriorate even at low temperatures. Okay, now let's move on to our vegetables, and we'll start looking at the beginning of the vegetables. Okay, so they're versatile and wholesome. They add colour and flavour and texture to the diet, and they're full of nutrition. So let's look at the classification first. Right, so in terms of the classification, we have four main groups: the roots, the greens, full of iron, fruit vegetables, they have seeds in them, and pulses. Okay, and don't forget this category of pulses, your beans, don't forget, includes your soya bean, which is high biological value protein. Everything else is low biological value. Okay, so know some examples of each of those. Now, what are legumes? They are the edible seeds that grow within the pods of a leguminous plant. So they're your peas, beans, and lentils. Okay, usually only the seeds are eaten, but sometimes the pod is too. For example, a green bean, okay, a mange tout or a sugar snap bean. They are among the most versatile and nutritious foods available, and they are invaluable in a vegetarian diet. And don't forget, your soya bean is invaluable in a vegetarian diet as well, because your soya bean has HBV protein. So very good, particularly for the vegan. Now, the composition. Okay, so going through the protein, fat, carbohydrate, vitamins, minerals, water. So they all have a high proportion of water. They all have the calcium and iron and the A and C vitamins, just like your fruit. Okay, now they all have no fat, which is wonderful. And then protein is very, very low, and it's LBV apart from the soya bean here. So the carbohydrate is where you really see the variation there. Okay. Now, the nutrient value. So roots, greens and fruits have a small LBV protein, and the soya bean is HBV. So again, you're using these headings: protein, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, water, and you're explaining each of them. They lack fats, except olives and the soya bean have polyunsaturated fat. Carbohydrates is in the form of sugar, particularly in carrots and beetroot, and fibre in the skin for energy, and then the prevention of constipation are what your carbohydrates are needed for. Vitamin C for the gums, and A found mainly in carrots for healthy eyes. So vitamin A is your growth vitamin for eyes, skin, growth and membranes. But vitamin A is the orange yellow color that gives carrots their orangeness or their color, and vitamin A is very important for your eyesight. So it is very true when they say carrots are needed for your eyesight. Very true. Calcium in green leafy veg and root veg, and you have iron in the green leafy veg as well. Okay, and then the dietetic value. So we're referring here to whose diet and why, and a point in economy and a point on versatility. invaluable source of vitamins and minerals, beta